breath in. All right. I'm happy to see you guys today. So it's okay to not be okay. I could talk for hours about this, but I'm going to try to keep it under 20 minutes. We'll see. I don't know all of you guys. You guys don't know all me. You guys all don't know me. You don't know my story and what I've gone through. I haven't lost any babies. I almost lost my fourth child, who's now 6'4" and 207 pounds. He's a big boy, but almost lost him. And I felt that grief and that fear and that, that hurt. But what I want to talk to you guys today about is it's okay to not be okay. And I have had a crazy good several weeks and a horrible several weeks. And I'm not going to go into all that, but just to say, I literally sat down at about 8 o'clock last night to ask God, what do you want me to say tomorrow? Because I have not had the time. And so I said, God, I'm going to show up going, I'm not okay. And that's okay. So I would love to say and complain that, I've only gotten 5.5 hours, 6 hours sleep every night the last 3 weeks, and you guys are probably like, that would be amazing. So I won't complain about that. But I did feel like God led me to some of my journals over the last few years, and that He wanted me to read to you, share a little bit about what's gone on, and then read some of my journal to you. I need to raise this for just a second. So I'm going to take you back to January 2016. And I want to preface this with God has done an amazing healing work in me over the last 3 years. So what I'm sharing with you is my journal and my processing at that time. I'm divorced. I was married over 25 years, and I love my ex-husband. I have great compassion. I've completely forgiven him. God has done a tremendous healing work in my heart. So I want to preface that. I also want to preface I have a daughter who you will hear about as well, who we have walked through a very painful journey over the last 7 years, and challenging journey as a mom, and as a Christian mom, in learning how to completely disagree but still love each other like crazy with where she's at in life right now and some of the decisions that she's made. So January 2016, not a good month by any stretch of the imagination. Week 1, my husband is emotionally exhausted. Is hurting emotionally. He left the Lord 6 months before, and it was a devastating turn of events then, but I'm not going to go into those 6 months. And then after a reconnection at Christmas time and thinking, okay, we can do this. We can live Christian and non-Christian together. He now has decided to pull away from me again, not talking to me, angry at me, no affection, lots of disconnection. He said he was processing and didn't want to talk at this time. And I'm trying to give him space and trying to keep my love on. I was teaching a class called Keep Your Love On by Danny Selk and trying to put that into practice. Week 2, I thought last week was hard. I'm trying to give him space and keep my love on. I'm filled with peace though through all this week. It's really strange and confusing. And by that, I understand what it means, that peace that passes all our understanding, like Kari was saying. How can I live in this chaotic storm and still be at peace? I even made a video that week about how there could be a storm raging outside, but it's peaceful in your house, that you can have those two different dynamics. More of the same for my husband, anger, disconnection. I approached him to say, hey, can you treat me with respect at least? I'm trying to do that for you, and he agreed. And so we had some kinder communications that week. Sunday, my daughter comes to me and is having self-harm and suicidal thoughts. She's cut her arm up pretty badly. My son Jacob has 101 fever, which means he will miss his academic challenge playoffs, something he had been looking forward to because he was going to be the captain that year. I had bad dreams that night that was related to one of the things that my kids struggled with, and I approached her about it, and she denied it at that time, but I really felt like there was a stronghold still going on, and I later found out that she wasn't telling me the truth. Monday, Jacob's fever is 104. His team won the playoffs, which means that they will have the finals on Wednesday, so I'm hoping and praying that his fever will break. We moved my daughter's counseling appointment up to Tuesday instead of Friday. On Tuesday, I worked. I had a person pass out and stop breathing, almost had to do CPR. Thankfully, they had just passed out. My daughter is having strong suicidal self-harm thoughts again today. I get a call from the school. We made the difficult decision to admit my daughter to inpatient psychiatric after her appointment with her counselor. And after a few hours of getting her settled there, I came home, and my son, while standing in the kitchen, said, Mom, I can't see. And he about passed out, all 6'1", 200 pounds of him. dehydrated, pale, and nauseous, but no fever, thank the Lord. Wednesday, Jacob woke up, no fever, yay! All right, I kept him home, let him sleep in. You have to be fever-free for 24 hours, so we sent him to school in the afternoon because you cannot do extracurricular activities unless you've been at school. So he was going to get to be in his finals. He went to PE, he about passed out, they sent him to the nurse checked his temperature, and it was 100. She sent him home. I was like, dang it, why didn't I just give him prophylactic ibuprofen before he went? No final competition for him today. He was very sad, I was very sad. In a conversation later that day, my husband shocks me with his newfound beliefs that homosexuality is now okay, and he does not believe it's wrong. I could feel depression and hopelessness trying to settle in on me. I could feel fear creeping in, and that this decision would counteract everything I had been trying to work for with my daughter. This would give her permission to go even deeper into this lifestyle. Depression, hopelessness settled in quick and hard, but eventually I remembered, wait, greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. And I sang praise songs about Jesus and the power that is in his name, and that depression and hopelessness lifted. Thursday, just before leaving for a meeting, the handle of the shower breaks and the water is pouring out of the shower, so we had to turn the water main off. We had a meeting with my daughter's counselor who suggested partial inpatient at $375 a day for a total of $7,500, which we did not have. A huge argument with my husband and I on my daughter's schooling, on her sexual preferences, etc. Friday, teaching the first day of my Keep Your Love On class with my mom, and I get a call from school that one of my kids is going to be tested for marijuana use. Of course, I just laughed at this point because my week was seeming almost comical. My child was freaking out and about to have a panic attack, and I reassured him that we loved him and that we would cross every bridge when we get to it, and we would pray for favor from God. At one point he said, I'm lucky to have you as a mom. I really love you, by the way. That made me smile. Jacob is still homesick. His cough is getting worse. He's pale, he's dizzy, he's got a headache. His cheeks are red. He's had 4 nosebleeds today. But his fever was gone in the morning, but keeps creeping up at 102 in the afternoons. And now I'm getting worried and wondering what's going on. He's complaining of leg pain. And of course, as a nurse, I'm thinking, leukemia, something horrible. We had talked with Megan's doctor. She was tested. Yes, confirmed her ADHD diagnosis. Yes, she's super smart, 135 IQ, normal is 90 to 110, and she has gender dysmorphic disorder, which was a shock, but not surprising in some ways. It was new information. She had always denied it in the past. Saturday, finally a better day. Jacob's fever's gone. We had a good talk with my other son, with my husband. It was a crazy week. It was a week from hell, but yet I lived in this bubble of peace that whole week and joy. And I got to the end of the week going, God, this was weird. This was weird. It is that peace that passed all my understanding. I could not understand it. I was filled with his joy and his peace that week, even though it was a terrible week. Week 3, my husband was still really not talking to me and was processing and was disconnected. And I confronted him finally on whether he was thinking about separation and divorce or what was going on. He admitted that he was, but he didn't want to tell me then because he didn't want to ruin my birthday, which was coming up that weekend. Week 4, another week from hell, but this time, that bubble of peace and joy was much harder to contend for. I was not okay, and that was only the beginning of a much, much longer journey of learning how to be okay with not being okay. I had a lot of not okay days for a few years. I had to learn how to reach out to people around me, including a counselor weekly for 18 months. That's expensive, but worth it. I was investing in me. I had to learn how to be raw, real, transparent, vulnerable, embarrassed, humbled, dying to pride, dying to self-sufficiency and knowing it all. Just so you know, I'm a firstborn, mother of 5, nurse. I know it all. I do it all. I am strong. I am capable. I needed to die knowing what to do, being the expert, the fixer, the caretaker of others, and having to choose to humbly let others into my pain, my process, my neediness, my loneliness, my fears, my anxiety, my panic attacks. I've never had anxiety or panic attacks in my life. My doubts, my hurts, my frustrations, wanting to give up, and so on. Oops. So I want to read you some of the journal from that week from hell. So Sunday, January 24th, my birthday, woohoo! Well, as much as I told Jeremy that him telling me wasn't going to affect my birthday because I control my happiness, it did affect my birthday. I was shadowed with some sadness. This time last year, he had planned a surprise birthday party for me, and we were planning on a cruise that year. He did make me breakfast in bed that morning and was being kind to me in a disconnected way. He definitely has been more respectful and kind in ways, but nothing deep. Definitely no hugs, no affection, no kisses, not even hardly looking at each other. We ate dinner at my mom's house, and he went back and watched football with my grandfather, and then went over to a friend's house to watch more football. I skipped church that day because there was snow we had a big snowstorm, and there was ice on my car, and I just had a relaxing morning. On Monday and Tuesday, I'm still sad. I'm trying not to show Jeremy. It's hard to hide it when I just want to stay in bed or lay on the floor from the heaviness. Surprised that Jeremy even asked me, so what's going on? And then he said, I'm sorry. I asked him for what? And he said, for hurting you. I replied, then don't. Tuesday was a rough day, and I just needed to get out of the house that evening. I took Wendy and Jacob to see a movie, which ended up being really dumb. Came home and just needed a hot bath as I was overcome with emotion, dealing with my monthly hormones too. I put on my new Amanda Cook CD. Every song on that CD was perfect for this season. And I soaked and cried out to God. I screamed. And then I accidentally splashed water out of the tub as I kicked in anger and hurt, putting out my candle and water staining my new wooden box I had just bought from TJ Maxx. Great. I was just wanting to be done. So mad at Jeremy for going down this path that will not just affect him, but his whole family. I kept saying in my head, he's such an idiot. And of course, God replied in such kindness, but he's my idiot. And I could feel the love that God had for him. How do you argue with that? It softens the heart for sure. I felt like I wanted to drown, just to go under the water and never come up. So much pain, so much disappointment, so much tiredness and exhaustion from all the years of dealing with these things. And then all the stuff that is surfacing right now. I told God that I had been faithful to obey, to believe his promises, but I was really tired of doing the right thing. And even though I knew it would help others in the long run, going through this, learning this, etc., it was too hard, and I didn't know if I could keep doing it. Plus, I didn't even ask for this. Then a picture of Jesus on the cross flashed in my mind. I argued briefly, yeah, but you're God, and I'm not. And you chose to go to the cross. And God replied, yes, but I live inside of you. He always has a perfect reply. God, you have a way of gently and lovingly correcting me and showing me that you understand and have been there and beyond. I got to a place of choosing to trust God no matter what, that no matter what happens, if Jeremy leaves, if he stays, if I get divorced, if whatever, that I would be okay because I can trust God to work all things out together for good. I had to die to all sorts of things, letting go of my interpretation of God's promises, dying to the dreams and desires of my heart, letting go of my involvement in helping to fulfill those promises. How many of us do that? Letting go of my ability or lack of ability to help my husband, my kids, and trusting that above all, God can help them, encounter them, protect them, break through to them, and I had to press into that peace, love, and joy, giving thanks and giving to God everything. And he is so faithful to get that peace in return. He has taken me deeper, even more so than in the last season, giving me hope in the midst of the storm, that I will still be able to make it to the other side, and that his eye is on my kids. I had to let go of my fears of what divorce would do to the kids, or even what separation would do to them. I had to let go of what this would do to Jeremy, his career, friendships, and life. He owns his life and his half of all relationships. I had to give up any and all control. And it is such a better place to live. I asked God at the end of my tears, wanting to drown my sorrows away, who do you want to be for me in this season? His gentle, loving, and firm reply, your lover. I just melted. I think Amanda Cook was even singing about it at that moment. God, you are my lover, the one who has loved me unconditionally, never left me, never disconnected from me, never forsook me, but chose me, pursued me, and so much more. Wednesday, feeling that heaviness still. Some peace, but still a lot of heaviness and pain. I texted Maureen, Jean, and Lisa to pray for me today. Maureen called me as I was on my way to meet with another friend, Jackie, who God had very timely told her to text me to get together that day. And then my friend Rita texted me and that morning saying, man, you are just like Job. Ah, hee hee. And then asked me out to a birthday dinner at the Melting Pot that next week. I love that woman. Maureen's prayer on the phone just poured liquid peace all over me and brushed off that heaviness and sadness. I had a good time with Jackie. We prayed with her and her friend who knew nothing about what I was going through prayed exactly in alignment with what was going on. I recorded the prayer, God, you are so good. I will have to listen to it over again. Feeling good this day. Thursday, feeling good in the morning, but nervous about my family meeting with my daughter at her partial inpatient today. I had replied to an email from Jeremy, and I didn't know how he would respond or if he would respond to it, which he didn't. He showed up at the therapy meeting, like most meetings, filled with anger, or at least it was showing in his demeanor towards me. That's okay. I own and control me, and I can choose to keep my love on. I worked hard at doing that. It wasn't always easy. The meeting was good, but definitely very emotional. Megan shared more about some pain and hurts, and I did my best to listen, validate, apologize, reconcile, and in the end, she wouldn't even really hug me. Just barely leaned into me. And yet, when Jeremy hugged her, she clung to him and sobbed. She wants us to agree with her feelings and identity and know that we will support her when and if she decides to change into a man down the road. It's a painful place, and I so wish I could meet her there. I wish I could just support whatever she feels and thinks she is. But at the same time, I see a bigger picture, and I see her for who God created her to be, not what her feelings are telling her at this moment. Not what the enemy is telling her, not what the world is saying, and yet, here's Jeremy agreeing with her in the world now, and that she has an ally against me and someone to support her feelings and identity. I'm glad she and Jeremy are getting closer in a way, but worried about any unhealthiness, and I'm just going to have to trust God there. I left the meeting and just sobbed all the way home, feeling like I could easily drive off the road. I just wanted to curl up in my mom's arms and cry and be held, but I also just needed to be held by my Heavenly Father's arms and get His perspective, not my protective and worrying mom's perspective. I chose to go home and crawl into bed, put on worship music, cry out to God, give thanks, cry some more, process the grief and pain, and rest in His arms. My mom called. I had texted her to pray, and it was good to talk to her briefly and share my grief with her. She reiterated what God has been telling me and what Jackie had said, to focus on me internally and externally because things were out of my control. And it's true. My job is to heal, to process, to grieve, and to learn to keep my love on through it all. I have to lean into God and figure out how to love in return, how to still be okay, even if and when outcomes are not okay or desirable. How to love my husband and daughter where they are at, and trusting God with the future, and even with the present and the past. I could feel a shift lifting of the dark, painful cloud. I chose to get up out of my bed, even though I so wanted to just stay there and wallow in my pain. I made a choice, and I'm glad I did. I chose to believe God. I chose to let go. I chose to press on. I chose to be that warrior princess daddy that my daughter says that I am. I chose to believe that greater is He that is in me than he that is in the world. I chose to believe that my daddy has got this. I made a choice to stand up again and to keep standing. I pressed into thankfulness, peace, and joy, for the joy of the Lord is my strength. And I want to be strong for me, for my kids, for other women going through similar things. I started to realize what God was doing, setting me up for something amazing. A friend sent me a text that had a quote that said something like, if we could see from God's perspective, we would ask Him for what we're going through right now. So true, but very difficult. On Friday, I had a meeting already set up with Jean, Lisa, and Maureen to come over and pray that day. I went to my Keep Your Love On class in the morning. My mom graciously offered to teach it for me. And then I came home and prayed with my friends, shared what was going on with me and Jeremy and Megan. And I love these women because they walked through things like this, or worse, or different. And I trust their hearts and their perspective. They carry the heart of God, and they seek his perspective and not the world's. It was reassuring to, again, hear from them the same things God had been telling me about learning more about living in his place of peace, of becoming unshakable, unmovable. Maureen read from Streams in the Desert, which if you're going through a hard time is a really great devotional book. And it was perfect. And she talked about that unmovable place of peace, about being a pillar in the house of the Lord because we are overcomers. Wow, I had literally just asked God the day before about that promise he had spoken over my kids being 5 pillars in the house of the Lord. And what did that mean? They were overcomers. In order to be an overcomer, you have to have something that you overcame. This was an answer to prayer. So I trust you, God. I know you can restore. I know you can make better than before. I do choose to believe what you said about not being the end. However, even if it is, I know I will be okay because you are good and you love me and you've never failed me. So where am I at now? I'm at peace, but I still feel sadness, depression, knocking at the door. I feel fear and anxiety trying to come in and hang out with me, but I'm not going to let them in. So over the next few years, and even 8 years ago when I thought my marriage was at its worst then, what did I do when I was not okay? How was I okay with not being okay? How did I respond? And this is just one tiny snippet of an ocean, I'll have to write it up one day, just the beginning of the deepest, darkest season of my life. I thought that was a bad week, and that was like the sunshiny day compared to what was coming up. And thankfully God had forewarned me that it's going to be pitch black, and the only way you're going to get through this deep, dark forest is hold on to the back of my shirt and step when I step, and trust me. You will get to the other side. So how did I respond? I responded like David did. 1, I poured out all my grief to him. This is not fair. I wish he was dead. I wish, everything came out of me. And because Daddy God is big enough to handle it. How many times do our toddlers scream and throw tantrums and we can grab them and hold them and just hold them because we're big enough to handle it? It's important to grieve. It's important to feel those feelings. There's a phrase, you've got to feel the feeling you've got to feel to heal. You've got to feel to heal. And God reveals to heal. When we get those feelings that come up, he's revealing an area he wants to heal and give us an upgrade in. I love Psalm 142. So when I said respond like David from the Bible, what did he do? Like Psalm 142, he says, I love David. God, I'm crying out to you. I lift up my voice boldly to beg for your mercy. I spill out my heart to you and tell you all my troubles. For when I was desperate, overwhelmed, and about to give up, you were the only one there to help. You gave me a way of escape from the hidden traps of my enemies. I look to the left and the right, and I see if there's anyone to help, but there's no one who takes notice of me. I have no hope of escape, and no one cares whether I live or die. So I cried out to you, Lord, my only hiding place. You're all I have, my only hope in this life, my last chance for help. And it goes on. Psalm after psalm. I cry out, I cry out, I cry out. But then number 2. So the first one is, help God, or here I am, God. Help, this is me, raw. Number 2, but God, is you start pouring out thanksgiving, because gratitude opens the door to that peace that passes all understanding. When God says to bring your petitions before the Lord, with thanksgiving, and then the peace of God, which passes all your understanding, will guard your heart and mind. We have to give thanks. Many days I was in the shower saying, well, thank you for my hot water. Thank you I have a toilet and it flushes today. Thank you. Thank you that I do have a husband who gave me 5 kids, even though things aren't going great. Thank you that he pays the bills. Thank you I have a house. And even if you can thank God, you have 2 legs you can stand up on today. Start that attitude of gratitude, and it starts to open the door. That peace starts to settle down. And then 3, ask God. So you've poured out your junk. But God, I choose to give you thanks for you are good, you are great, you created this whole world. And then ask God, who do you want to be for me today? Because he's all about the upgrade. He's all about the relationship with you. And there was one day I got out of the shower completely naked, fell to the ground, exhausted, sobbing, saying, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this anymore. I can't, I'm done, I can't. I just want to melt to the floor. And for the last 2 weeks, God had been telling me he was my defender, my defender, my defender. And this day I said, God, I gave thanks, and I said, who do you want to be for me today? And he said, you're sustainer. And I wrote every scripture up. I looked at every scripture on sustaining. I still have them, I think, in my bathroom. and started declaring those over, because it's warfare. It's warfare. There's power in those words. He wants to give you an upgrade. The last thing, this isn't necessarily with David, is, Kari mentioned it, other people, is connect with people. Get out of bed. Get your butt to MOPS. Kara's, get your butt to MOPS. Call a friend. I was intentional in texting those mentor moms and saying, help, help, help. I have several friends here in MOPS that I wouldn't have gotten through that season without them letting me be raw and real. Poor Kelly, every lunch we went to. I never got to hear about her. No payback. Reach out. Be willing to be raw. I am a self-sufficient girl. I don't like to do this, and I've learned that there's freedom in doing this, in being raw and real and vulnerable. So connect. Get out of bed. I purposely, the week my husband moved out, I had planned to start a Bible study, lead a Bible study at my house, and every Thursday night I was like, God, I got nothing. I'm a hot mess. Friday morning the ladies come, I'm like, I hope this goes okay. I'm just a hot mess. And by the end of our Bible study, I'm like, God, amazing, this is wonderful, I feel great. And it was like a shot of vitamin B12 or something, an infusion that got me through the week, and the next Thursday, repeat the cycle. Yeah. I got out. I purposely sowed into. If you want love, sow love. If you want peace, sow peace. If you need help, sow help. Sow into what it is you want to read. And I wrote, but Lori, you're saying it's okay to not be okay. And that sounds like it's okay to be a hot mess. Yes, it is. It's okay. Just don't stay there. Jesus was sweating blood, pouring out his requests, his fears, his angst about the upcoming sacrifice he was going to have to make. But he chose to obey his dad. He chose to get up and go out and do something. And he surrounded himself with his friends, who didn't always respond super great, weren't always there for him, but he did. He reached out. So we may not be okay at times, but this is just a moment in time. Don't let it become a permanent prison or a grave. Respond like David. Reach out and stay healthy in connection to safe people. And I want to end with something, but before I do, in the time remaining, I've got some questions that are deep questions, and I'm going to ask you to be brave, and I'm going to ask you to be vulnerable, and I'm going to ask your tables to be safe places, that whatever is shared at the table stays at the table, biggest rules. That if you are struggling with something and you don't feel safe to share it at the table, find your table leader, find your mentor mom, find one of the pastors. Please share, because the scripture that says confess your sins one to another so that you may be healed, you can add in there, confess your hurts, your fears, your struggles, so that you can be healed, because whatever's in the dark is in enemy territory, but when we bring it into our light, there is now power to gain victory over that. And Kari said a phrase that I also forgot to mention, which is grieve with hope. I don't want you grieving in hopelessness. There is hope at the end of that tunnel and at the end of that dark. And I'm happy to say I'm on the other side of that dark season. I love who I am today because I've done the work. Proverbs 4:23, above all else, guard your heart. Protect it, heal it, nurture it, go get counseling, invest in it, because out of it flow the well springs of life. So I want to read to you, just end with this. It's something I had written on Facebook during that time. Having trouble sleeping. Again, meds, Epsom salt and lavender oil baths, a glass of wine, soaking worship music, a lot of Netflix. You name it, I've tried it. But what gets me when I climb into bed each night is anxiety. What brings anxiety is anger. What brings the anger is hurt. What brings the hurt is all that has happened in the last couple years. How do you let go of a 27-year relationship? How do you put in God's hands the one you loved the most here on earth? How do you sit back and give up all influence or control you thought you had and trust the Lord that He will rescue, deliver, and set free, that He'll protect, defend, sustain, and provide? How do you deal with all the disappointment, the loss of hopes and dreams, the loss of what was, what is, and what could have been? How do you keep going and looking forward with hope? Especially when you don't want to let go of what was behind. Even when what was behind has completely let go of you over and over and over again. There's only one way. I have to keep my eyes fixed on the only one who will never leave me or forsake me. I keep my eyes fixed on the one who has always loved me and chosen me. I keep my eyes fixed to the best of my ability, knowing that even if I look away, his gaze will always be fixed on me, never rejecting, never abandoning, never leaving, and never changing his mind about his love for me and who I am to him. To him I am loved. To him I am cherished. To him I am chosen. To him I am everything. To him I am valued. To him I am worth dying for. To him I am worth pursuing. To him I am his beautiful daughter, his future bride, his friend, and so much more. I'm trying to keep my eyes fixed, but some days are harder than others. I'm thankful he's big enough to handle my hot mess, anger, anxiety, tears, fears, and more, and love me right through it. I'm thankful that he's big enough to handle his girl. So, Father God, I thank you for these mamas. I thank you for these absolutely beautiful women and everything that they're going through, have gone through, or might go through. And God, we just thank you, Holy Spirit, you are here, and we invite you into our conversations today to bring healing, insight, revelation, wisdom, and greater depth of intimacy and relationship with you and with each other. In Jesus' name, amen.